Growing up, I always thought of an artist as someone who was good at drawing the things in everyday life, like people, trees, clouds, and buildings. It didn't occur to me until later that art also contained imagery of things that couldn't exist in this world, which opened my mind up to a whole new realm of possibilities. As I grew older and learned some of the fundamentals to drawing, I also wanted to create things that have never existed before. It just seemed a lot more interesting compared to recreating something that I was already looking at. However, I found out very quickly that it wasn't that easy to just make up an entirely new world of things. The paralysis I faced as I started a new drawing made me realize that the few years I had spent learning to shade and draw 3D shapes wasn't enough for me to come up with original characters, stories, and scenes on the spot. This is also known as blank canvas syndrome, or if it develops into something more long-term, it is known as artist block. Why was it that when I was walking home from school, I had awesome ideas for skyscrapers, new Pokemon, and spaceships, but when I sat down at the paper, the ideas drained out from my head? Why was it that I could never capture the essence of what was in my head and translate it onto the paper? These questions bothered me for most of my middle school years, but throughout high school and into the pandemic as I took on art as a full-time job, I began to unlock a part of both my imagination and abilities that eventually led me to never running dry of ideas ever again. Now I feel as if I'm in an endless world that I could pull from whenever I want. But thinking back, I wonder, how did I jailbreak my imagination? The answer is not one simple thing. It's a combination of awareness, abilities, efforts, and consistency. All of these things I've come to learn need to be developed in order to bring not only one's art to the next level, but their imagination. Throughout the last 12 years, I've been drawing every day, starting as a kid. My awareness of my own imagination and abilities developed as I grew up. As a kid, I wasn't aware that the reason why I couldn't translate what was in my head onto the paper was because I sucked at drawing. I hadn't been drawing for too long when I was in elementary school, so my skill level was very far from my imagination. One of the major things one needs in order to bridge the gap between skill level and imagination is awareness. Once I had awareness of where I stood as an artist among my friends, my artist friends online, and the artists I looked up to, I then faced another problem that many artists of all ages have a hard time dealing with, which is balancing the negatives and the positives of what one sees in their work. I've spoken to many artists who make great art, but they only see the negative side of things. They are aware of all the flaws within their work to the point of being unaware of how anyone else outside themselves actually views it, thinking everyone sees it through the same lens as them. I've also spoken to artists who are the complete opposite, who see their work only through the positives. The work they've made fits all of the criteria of what they set out to do, which makes them proud of it, as they should be. However, they don't see any way to improve their work, thinking the level they are at now is as high as it can be. It's really important to pat yourself on the back for the parts you can identify as good, and analyze which parts need improvement. Be aware of both your own vision for the project and what it looks like to someone else who isn't you. I think it could be argued that there is no such thing as the perfect art piece. However, one can always get closer to perfection, but never touch it. This means that the people who see their work only through a negative or a positive lens will always be permanently stagnant, unable to grow due to their own unawareness. One of the comments that I received the most is something along the lines of, "Wow, this is just pure talent." Well, there's this quote that I heard some time ago about how hard work beats talent every time if talent doesn't work hard enough, which is definitely true. Some people are born with talent and some aren't. Either way, work needs to be put in to fully realize those talents or aspirations. Personally, I've come to learn that not everyone has an imagination like I do, which I've chalked up to natural abilities that I was born with. However, if I decided to never pursue drawing, my imagination would have never been expressed in the way that I express it now. There are people who aren't born with a crazy imagination or anything that would help or assist them in learning how to make art faster. Those people will end up working harder than most of the people who are born with natural abilities, or will have the potential to be better than those people with talents. Skill is something that needs to be developed because imagination and reality are way further apart than you think. To be able to express yourself with complete control, mind to reality translation can take years of practice. There are fundamental things everyone needs to know in order to create art. Things like drawing in perspective, human anatomy, shading, and on a more basic level, you should probably also have eyes. When someone picks up an instrument for the first time, it's not like they can just automatically whip out a crazy song straight from their head. I used to think that when I was a kid. I remember when my parents first got a piano, I was like 4 years old and I would just bang on the keys kind of just frustrated for about 20 minutes why what was in my head would just never come out of the piano. In order to learn an instrument, one should first work on the basics of learning how to play the instrument in order to acquire the capabilities to just play from their head. The same thing goes for drawing. You can't just pick up a pen and paper for the first time and have an immediate mind-to-paper translation. There have been people that have achieved this first-time talent thing, but it is very, very rare. Not only your first time, but your second and third and probably 100th time will also probably result in more failures than successes. That is why you need to be prepared to fail, because special things and abilities are rarely free. It's best to try to enjoy the process and not let your failed expectations get to your head. People often struggle to display anything creative on the paper or canvas because they don't know how to turn their abstract feeling into an image that then could be translated on whatever surface they are using. There was a study conducted on dreams where the researchers came to the conclusion that they don't know if dreams could be seen in color or really anything of the matter. They thought maybe through recalling the dream, people could possibly be recreating imagery in order to connect the disconnected memory they have of their dream. That made me wonder, is the imagery we see in our head different from reality itself? I can imagine many things from different angles, but the ability to hold an image or a state of mind completely still, frozen in time, is very, very difficult. The mind is constantly moving and reacting to everything, even when your conscious mind doesn't notice it. What I've learned is to never expect the artwork to come out exactly like how you've imagined it. Instead, I've directed my efforts towards learning how to compromise with my imagination. I've been drawing every day for the last 12 years since I was 8 years old, and throughout the years, I've come to develop a certain visual style through constantly drawing things and learning new techniques that I found interesting. I think people seem to think that it's all in my head when I start a new drawing or painting, but in reality, it's a very abstract feeling. I barely have anything concrete in mind. What I have instead learned how to do is compromise with my imagination. My style is like a filter that my imagination flows through, and depending on the size, the medium, and the time spent, the abstract gets filtered down more and more into its true essence. I believe this is the path many artists take within the genre of art that I do. In order to achieve this, you have to be creating or learning how to create as much as you can. I mean, pilots have to fly thousands of hours until they are trusted to fly commercial jets. You have to be consistent at your craft and do it a lot if you want to continue to grow. The reason why consistency matters is because if you don't do it consistently, then your growth will be unbelievably slow. If you're consistent, then your growth is exponential. There are definitely levels of understanding when it comes to making sense of the abstract feelings in your head that drive your imagination, and those can only be comprehended once you've reached a certain level. Anyways, thank you for watching. Let me know if this video helped or if there's anything I should cover next time. If you want to support in any way, feel free to check out the link in the description. You should definitely take a look at the print and clothing selection on Synthetic, which showcases the many different sides of my style, or check out the original artwork website. For more content, find me on Instagram or TikTok, where I post daily videos and pictures of what I've been working on, plus other tutorials. Anyways, peace out.